And good morning, everybody. Welcome back. So we are continuing our little mini series, I guess you could call it. It sounds kind of cheesy, but whatever. On 48 laws of power. And obviously, we are not going through all 48 of them. We are cherry picking ones that I would argue are most relevant to EMS and the general topics with which we address EMS culture and leadership and so forth. And today we're digging into law number 19. And it's know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. There are many different kinds of people in the world, and you can never assume that everyone will react to your strategies in the same way. Deceive or outmaneuver some people, and they will spend the rest of their lives seeking revenge. There are wolves in lamb's clothing. Choose your victims and opponents carefully. Then, never offend or deceive the wrong person. Now, again, like we said, there is a lot of very controversial language in this book, and as you just heard some of it right here, choosing your victims and opponents carefully. He's using language that is provocative, to say the least. But this kind of harkens back to what I would say is the crux of the conversation about leadership and manipulation. That good leadership is actually manipulation. Really, it's just positive manipulation. You are manipulating a bunch of people to work together to a common end goal, whatever that is. So, like it or not, love it or not, that's kind of how that works. So, the using the term victim in here, don't go fly off the handle on that, because all it's basically saying is, hey, like, you're again, like we talked about yesterday's episode, we want to be able to exert power and influence in a good way. Well, by doing that, you are naturally going to have people that are on the receiving end of that, and if you want to call them victims, whatever, cool. That's the point of what he's saying, is that's kind of your target audience. Basically, this is presented in a very amoral fashion. This is not meant to be good, bad, or otherwise. It's just very much, here's how it works. And I know you're shocked. Again, the reversal of this is exactly what the first one was, which is, what possible good can come from ignorance about other people? Learn to tell the lions from the lambs, or pay the price. Obey this law to its fullest extent. It has no reversal. Do not bother looking for one. Okay, cool. So let's dig into, what the hell does that mean for EMS? Well, I'll give you a little personal anecdote. And, obviously I'm going to leave out a lot of details because there's no point in bringing up, people's names, locations, whatever. But, and I referenced this on a TikTok a little while ago that sparked a little bit of controversy from some people. But I was working one day and had dropped a patient off at a larger hospital in the area, and was coming up to say hi to a friend of mine who was part of a bigger conversation. So I just, quietly slid in over next to him, general greetings, salutations, whatnot. But obviously, no need to come in and dominate a conversation. I was privy to someone who was talking a profound amount of shit about a friend of mine and bringing up their checkered past, which had made the news, unfortunately, at the time. This was almost 10 years ago. And I heard a lot of things, and I didn't know the person. I only knew, basically two people in the whole group. So I just sat and listened. I listened. I acknowledged my presence was known. I'm kind of hard to hide. I don't. I can't sneak around anywhere, really. And this person was being very specific by name and saying a lot of shit. And I made a video about it, generally just being like, hey, this kind of shit is just not getting us anywhere. This is toxic. This is childish. We need to not do this. Well, I got a little blowback on the video just from people like, well, didn't you say or do anything? I was like, oh, believe me, I did something. And I had reached out to my friend that same night, mind you, this is middle of the night, and just apprised him of what was going on. Well, between my video and a couple of other people speaking up, I'll just say that this person is no longer going to be talking like that in public. There were some very specific ramifications placed on them because of this. So my point is, And no, I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm, something special. But a friend of mine once said that in EMS, don't say anything to someone that you're not okay being said to everyone. And I think that's very true because this person didn't even know my name and actually challenged me on TikTok and was just like, well, I don't know you. I don't know, anything about you. I don't even know your name. And I was like, okay. Literally, my response was, you're right. You don't know who I am. You don't know why I do what I do. Have a nice day. Well, now that person knows my name. But point being, you got to watch what you say around people because you don't know who is listening. You really don't. Now, I am obviously one who believes that when it comes to what is right and wrong, there is no gray area, and I will say what I need to say. And while that is true, there is a nuanced discussion of context. Sure, I will speak very plainly about a lot of things. But if you enter into a one-on-one discussion with me, generally speaking, especially if you come with an open mind, we're going to have a very fluid, polite, pleasant conversation. I'm not going to insult your character. I mean, unless you obviously display that your character is awful, in which case, fair game. But I don't believe that character assaults actually solve anything. Doesn't actually help anybody at all. So obviously be careful of what your insinuations are, but you also need to pick your battles because you don't know who knows who. It's not a question of whether or not you should take a stand or whether or not you should do the right thing, but there is a question of what is most tactically advantageous. And there are times where it is tactically advantageous to shut your fucking mouth. And there's also times where you should be more bold and aggressive. But when you do it in such a way that you don't leave a back door for someone to come in and destroy you from behind. And that's just common sense in general, situational awareness. Even when when you defeat somebody, don't like completely rub it in their face or make it so atrocious that they now can only think about getting back at you. Be aware that people have resources, people have connections, and especially in EMS, people know each other. They know everyone. You'd be amazed how interconnected we all are because we all went to school together, and then from there, everybody that migrates out slowly that kept in touch with each other is can be states away, thousands of miles away, and still forming connections, still staying together, connected, whatnot. So if you're gonna talk shit about somebody, you need to be prepared, one, to back it up, but two, to deal with consequences and deal with the fact that if it comes out of your mouth, they are probably going to hear about it. And unfortunately, we play this lovely game of telephone in EMS where what was originally said and then what is said downstream is very rarely the same thing. But even when it is, you need to be careful. I'm all for standing up against what's wrong. But you also need to realize that not everybody's playing by the rules and not everybody's going to play fair. So you need to be strategic and how you engage directly with people because it can come back to bite you in the ass and ultimately undermine what you're trying to do. That is a big reason why Michelle and I never name our employees anywhere on the show, on TikTok, none of it. Excuse me, not our employees, our employers. I only have one employee. We don't name them. Now, obviously, if you know us, you know where we work, where we have worked, and all of that, and that's cool. You can make whatever inferences you want. But I don't name drop on here by design. One, because I don't want to get sued. But two, because that's a battle that I'm not trying to fight. And no, it's not like, I'm god awful miserable where I am. But again, you got to pick your battles. And the point of what we put out here is not to stir up drama, but ultimately to bring some sense of empowerment to the people out here in the field. And if you tap into a little bit of strategy in how you pick your battles and how you address things, you would be amazed the good things that can come from it, the connections that will open up to you. Whereas if you don't, then those same connections can turn against you. And you can be like, oh, well, that just is what it is. Yeah, okay, that doesn't really work. That's a nice coping mechanism. That's cute, but it doesn't change the reality of that was a bad move. And again, I know that the language in this book is very difficult for some people. This is not a book that you just, blithely just sit and read and absorb it all. You have to be a critical thinker when you're dealing with this stuff. But guess what? That's life. Life is hard. Life is difficult. Life is nuanced, and life can be confusing. Life is messy. Life is messy. Period. The end. It's always clear as mud. So there's a lot richer detail in this chapter. A lot of very practical stuff. But when you go to make someone an enemy, and I believe that you should make enemies. There's another wonderful book. If you ever have the chance to read it, it's by Patrick Bet-David. It's called Choose Your Enemies Wisely. It's a phenomenal book. But he basically advocates that having enemies is actually one of the best things you can do in your life because it forces you to grow and change. And it forces you to level up. So I'm all for having enemies. I do not believe that we need to be holding hands and singing Kumbaya with everybody. However, we also need to be strategic in how we make those enemies. And don't make those enemies until you are ready to go to war with them. Because if you're not ready, you should just assume that they are. You should always assume that your enemy is better prepared than you are. And you should plan accordingly. There's a lot in this book. There's a lot in this particular chapter that it's very dense, but it's very worth unpacking. And I think if you come at it with an open mind and a critical thinking mind, you will see where the value is. I'm not going to sit here and say that every piece of advice in this book is gospel, but it gives you a lot to think about and really puts the rest of the world in perspective. So, if you learned something, good. Share it with your friends. If you were offended, good. You probably should be. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.